He was always incredibly self-effacing. It wasn't about him, it was about other people. He just gave them the nudge, encouragement, and off they go.
Prince Edward was always the quiet one in the royal family. While others got caught in constant drama and headlines, he stayed calm, loyal, and mostly in the background. But now, everything has shifted, and his voice finally cuts through the silence. At 61, Edward is speaking out about Princess Diana. What he reveals is raw, emotional, and shocking, changing everything we thought we knew about Diana and the royal family. We're about to uncover what Edward has been holding in his heart all these years, and why he chose this precise moment to speak out so openly and honestly. When it came to Diana, Edward noticed things that most people completely missed. Prince Edward and Princess Diana were never seen as a headline-grabbing duo. There weren't signs of a tight bond or a dramatic history that kept people talking endlessly. It almost seemed like they lived in the same royal world, but drifted in totally different directions. Diana was the vibrant one, the star who lit up every room and captured hearts wherever she went. She brought life, excitement, and energy into the monarchy. Edward, by contrast, stayed quiet, lurking in the shadows, always low-key, never craving the spotlight. Even though their personalities and roles couldn't have been more opposite, their paths still crossed quietly, in subtle ways most people never noticed. When Diana married into the royal family in the early 1980s, Edward was still quite young. He wasn't deeply involved, more like an observer standing at a distance while history unfolded before his eyes. Diana, barely out of her teenage years, had just become Prince Charles's wife in the eyes of the world. Everything looked like a perfect fairy tale on the surface, a young, graceful woman stepping into the royal storybook. But Edward saw more than the glitz and glamour. He noticed a young woman tossed into a world that didn't quite know what to do with her genuine spirit, deep emotions, and unique perspective on what it meant to be royal. At first, Edward stayed on the sidelines. He wasn't part of Diana's inner circle, and unlike some of his siblings, he didn't dive into the palace drama or get tangled in personal conflicts behind closed doors. But over time, Edward began to pick up on things that quietly stirred his curiosity and made him pay attention. Diana was no longer just Charles's new bride. She had become the center of attention. Crowds poured in by the thousands just to catch a glimpse of her. Every step she took was followed in the press, and it became clear she had a rare charm that instantly connected with people. But inside the palace, not everyone was thrilled. Edward noticed how Diana's growing fame made some members uneasy. He could sense the subtle shifts in energy and started seeing things others tried to ignore. The spark between Diana and Charles was fading. Their once magical marriage was slowly starting to crumble. Edward realized that the whispers weren't just silly gossip or media hype. The tension was real, and the love story was unraveling right in front of him. People didn't all see Diana the same way. Some felt she was stirring too much trouble, stepping outside the traditional royal path, and creating a tension they didn't want. Others saw something different, a woman bringing deeply human warmth into a space that often felt cold, distant, and removed from emotion. As for Edward, he stayed quietly in the middle. He never made his opinions public, never defended her, but he didn't speak against her either. His silence was steady, and spoke louder than words ever could. He chose to watch and listen, letting his quiet presence communicate more than any statement could. Over the years, Edward observed Diana's personal battles slowly unfolding in public view. He witnessed how the pressure and constant scrutiny weighed her down, and how the tension inside the palace chipped at her strength over time. He saw joy turn into sadness, smiles hide deep pain. At the same time, he watched how the family responded, or didn't respond at all. But Edward stayed where he always had, just beyond the center, quietly recognizing Diana's heartbreak and never stepping into the chaos, just observing and understanding the depth of her struggles. For the royal family, life ran on one strict rule: always control how people see you. Their image was carefully polished, private, and far removed from emotional messiness. Never complain, never explain wasn't just a motto. It was a shield protecting them for generations. They chose exactly what the public could see and kept everything else behind locked doors, hidden from the world. Then came Diana. From the moment she joined the family, things started to shift. She was young, radiant, and had a way of connecting with people that no royal had ever achieved before. While most family members hid emotions behind perfect smiles, Diana wore her heart on her sleeve. She cried when she was overwhelmed, spoke openly about her pain, and never pretended everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. She gave the public something unprecedented, a royal who felt like one of them. She allowed people to peek behind palace walls and witness reality beneath centuries of tradition. She showed that even those with crowns and titles could feel pain, wrestle with love, and face loneliness, all without raising their voice in complaint. Diana changed the way people saw the monarchy, and all the while, Prince Edward was there quietly taking it all in. He never chased the spotlight, but he was present for every shift, every struggle, and every triumph. Watching closely as Diana's courage, honesty, and vulnerability reshaped the royal world in ways no one expected. Prince Edward never jumped into the family's struggles, but that didn't mean he wasn't paying attention. He quietly observed from the background, noting every ripple Diana's presence caused as she slowly turned the royal world upside down. Her rising popularity hit the palace like a storm. Royals had never encountered anyone like her before. She was expected to be quiet support beside Charles, but instead she became the star. Everywhere she went, people cheered, photographers never left her side, and even powerful leaders seemed more eager to meet Diana than the rest of the family. With every appearance, her influence grew stronger. Behind the scenes, though, tension simmered. The spotlight, once shared by the monarchy, now shone almost entirely on Diana, creating serious pressure inside the palace. The royal family, used to strict rules, quiet traditions, and hidden emotions, struggled to keep up. They expected everyone to maintain composure, avoid public displays of emotion, and follow the same rules. Change was resisted. Old customs were tightly held and personal struggles were carefully hidden. But Diana didn't play by these rules. She spoke openly about her pain, admitted feeling isolated, and revealed the crushing weight of royal life, a truth no one before had dared to voice. And because of her honesty, the public adored her even more. Prince Edward, calm as ever, watched everything unfold. He noticed how the family struggled to adapt, while Diana's openness connected her with the people in ways the royals couldn't. Her truth didn't just reveal her struggles, it exposed how disconnected the monarchy had become over generations. The royal family had meticulously crafted how the world saw them. Polished, distant, and untouchable, their image was flawless, but Diana couldn't be contained. Her sincerity, the very thing that made people fall in love with her, became the biggest threat to the old royal system. She made people feel something real, something personal, something the monarchy had never allowed, and that instantly made her more than a difficult royal. She became a force of change. Her presence challenged everything the monarchy had built over generations. The harder they tried to silence her or control her, the more obvious it became that their hold on the public's trust was slipping. At that time, Edward said nothing. He remained quiet, observing every moment, every glance, every subtle shift in the palace rather than intervening. But he saw it all, and when he finally spoke years later, it became clear just how profoundly Diana had transformed the royal world. She hadn't just stirred the waters, she changed how people viewed the monarchy entirely. From the sidelines, Edward watched Diana accomplish something extraordinary. Her presence both shielded the royal family from total disconnection and forced them to confront a truth they could no longer ignore. She reshaped their world forever, and Edward quietly observed every step. Diana did something no royal had ever done before. She made the crown feel human, warm, and alive. For generations, the royal family had hidden behind layers of rules, distance, and quiet dignity, projecting perfection while keeping emotions strictly locked away. They weren't meant to appear like regular people with feelings or flaws. They were meant to represent tradition, stability, and history. But Diana completely upended that. She didn't hide behind palace walls or guards. She was soft, open-hearted, and fearless in showing public affection rather than simply waving politely from a distance. She stepped directly into crowds, smiled at strangers, held hands, and met their eyes with genuine warmth. That closeness felt new, alive, and magical. She brought the royal world down to earth, making ordinary people feel seen, understood, and connected like never before. But what seemed beautiful to the public sent shockwaves through the palace. This shift wasn't taken lightly. It shook the royal family to its core. No one had ever been so naturally loved, so personally connected to the outside world. Diana didn't approach her duties like a job. Everything she did came from the heart. She visited hospital beds that others avoided, went to places the world feared, and drew attention to those often forgotten in conflict zones, all without seeking any spotlight. She also inspired people to act, spreading hope and compassion far beyond what anyone expected. She reached out, held hands, embraced patients, and stepped into dangerous, uncharted situations, not for attention, but because she truly cared. She didn't seek fame. The world adored her for it. Diana wasn't just a figurehead. She became a symbol of compassion and humanity across nations. She made the royal family feel alive and human again. Yet behind the palace walls, her influence and growing fame caused unease and tension. For centuries, the monarchy had thrived by keeping emotions locked away and private lives protected. Diana's openness, her tears, and her voice went against everything the family held sacred. She couldn't be predicted. She spoke her truth, cried when she was hurt, and allowed the world to see the woman behind the crown. That honesty was magnetic, but it made the royal family uncomfortable. They preferred quiet over questions, control over raw emotion, rules over reality. Prince Edward, however, quietly understood her in ways others didn't. He recognized that Diana wasn't just a princess. She had captured the hearts of millions worldwide. Edward didn't try to interfere or stop her. He stayed on the sidelines, silent, while others tried to protect the royal image by controlling her. He watched as she struggled to follow palace rules while preserving her independence. But that balance didn't last. In staying true to herself, Diana gradually wore down under the immense pressure. Her strength and independence were both her power and her vulnerability. She couldn't force herself to be a quiet, smiling royal. She opened up about her pain, letting people see what life behind the royal curtain truly looked like. But the family wasn't ready for such raw openness. They didn't know how to respond to that kind of realness, leaving the world with one lingering question. Did Diana's way help the monarchy grow, or did it tear it apart? Many believed Diana gave the royal family a second chance. Before her, interest in the monarchy was fading. They seemed stiff, distant, and trapped in outdated traditions. But when Diana arrived, everything changed. She brought energy, warmth, and light that pulled people back in. She made the royals feel relevant again, and whether they liked it or not, she forced the monarchy into a new chapter of history. Her presence didn't just attract attention, it opened eyes. She uncovered truths the royal family had quietly kept hidden for decades. When Diana began speaking openly about the pain she faced within the palace, she lifted the veil. The world saw that behind the diamonds and golden halls lay a place that often felt cold, distant, and resistant to change. That truth hit hard and lingered, leaving people stunned and thinking deeply about what really went on behind palace doors. Even now, long after her passing, the royal family is still trying to repair the cracks that her truth-telling exposed. Edward didn't speak much during all of this. He wasn't the heir like Charles, nor bold like Diana, unafraid to challenge centuries of tradition. But he was there, silently observing everything unfold. He never made public statements or appeared on television. But that didn't mean he was unaware. He chose silence. From the background, he watched the royal image begin to crack long before the world realized it. Then came the moment that stopped time. On August 31st, 1997, shocking news rippled across the globe. Princess Diana had died in a car accident in Paris. It was sudden, heartbreaking, and nearly impossible to believe. People filled the streets in grief and disbelief. Candles glowed on the sidewalks outside Kensington Palace, and mountains of flowers continued to pile up endlessly. The world mourned deeply, even those who had never met her personally. It felt as if someone irreplaceable had been taken away. Diana wasn't just a royal name, she was warmth, hope, action, and someone who genuinely wanted to make a difference, and now she was gone. The heartbreak was overwhelming, but while the streets overflowed with sorrow, something strange, secretive, and tense was happening behind the palace doors. The royal family stayed completely quiet. Their silence shocked the world. People everywhere were waiting to see just one tear, one sign of sorrow from the royal household. But nothing came. No speeches, no public appearance. Not even the flag at Buckingham Palace was lowered. The family kept to themselves, locked inside, still holding tightly to old customs and formality in a world now craving openness, empathy, and raw human emotion. That silence felt cold and deeply out of place. The traditions they held onto so tightly now looked out of touch, and in this moment, their refusal to show feeling only made things worse. The public had changed and the royal family hadn't. People couldn't hold back their anger. They wanted answers. Why wasn't the Queen saying anything? Why hadn't Charles spoken up? Did they feel anything at all? The public's frustration grew louder by the minute. Headlines slammed the royals. Famous figures began to speak out against them. Even those who had always stood by the monarchy started to question whether the royal family had grown too far apart from the people they were meant to lead. Yet, through all the noise, pressure, and global chaos, Prince Edward remained silent. Deep inside, he was hurting, but he never showed it. He wasn't Diana's husband like Charles. He wasn't her child like William or Harry, but he had been close enough to witness her struggles as her brother-in-law. He had quietly seen her pain in ways others may never have noticed. Still, he said nothing. His silence held more emotion than any public speech ever could, and by the time the Queen finally addressed the nation, the damage had already been done. The long, tense wait had left a deep and lasting wound. The quiet from the palace spoke volumes louder than any official statement ever could. That silence revealed a version of the royals that people couldn't easily forget or overlook. They seemed cold, distant, out of touch, and lost in their own insulated world. And just like Diana's brave honesty had shaken things up before, this prolonged silence left its own indelible mark. Diana's passing became the moment the royal family could no longer ignore change. Her death became a painful turning point. Suddenly, the usual quiet and reserved way of doing things was not enough. People wanted to see emotions, not empty rituals or tradition. They wanted the royals to feel what the world was feeling. It was no longer acceptable to act like nothing had happened. That painful loss forced the monarchy to rethink everything. They had to open up. They had to show the world that they were human too, while also trying desperately to repair their image and learn to genuinely connect with the public again. Edward stayed in the background. He never stepped forward. He didn't appear on television or write letters. He never openly shared his feelings or revealed how Diana's passing had touched his heart. But he watched it all unfold. The grief, the anger, the royal family's slow, tentative shift toward openness. Yet he kept his thoughts carefully locked away, observing silently and with restraint. He never revealed how he really felt about the palace's cold, formal silence, or how the public outrage swept through like a storm that refused to stop. For years, Edward chose to remain in the shadows, offering nothing but quiet observation. Still, the world never stopped talking. Speaking about Diana, people remembered her kindness, her strength and her pain, and how she had tried to bring meaningful change to the monarchy. Her story remained alive through interviews, films, books, and countless conversations. The way she was treated by the palace continued to spark public unease. Her memory kept evoking strong emotions that never seemed to fade. And through all of it, Edward never once offered his side publicly. He stayed invisible until this very moment, quietly observing decades of history in the making. Would you like to hear what he finally said? Keep watching. The shocking revelations about Princess Diana. For many years, Prince Edward has finally come forward, catching everyone off guard. Unlike the usual polished and careful statements from the royal family, Edward didn't try to defend the crown or soften any part of the truth. His words didn't sound rehearsed. He wasn't trying to protect anyone or repair his public image. Instead, he spoke in a raw, heartfelt, honest way that offered people a rare and personal view of what really happened behind the palace walls. He admitted something that many had quietly believed for years, that Princess Diana never truly fit into the rigid royal world. He said the system wasn't made to accept someone like her. Diana's warmth, openness, and willingness to show her emotions were seen as weaknesses by the institution, not as strengths. Her deep loneliness wasn't simply a personal struggle. It was the direct result of a royal machine designed to suppress vulnerability and personal expression. Now people ask, why is Edward speaking up after so many years of silence? Many believe it's no coincidence. Today, the royal family faces renewed scrutiny. Younger voices are questioning whether the monarchy remains relevant in modern society. The same pressures and problems that once surrounded Diana are being raised again, and her memory remains at the centre of that conversation. Edward's words don't simply look backward. They respond quietly to questions the public still asks today. What makes his message different is that it doesn't echo rehearsed royal rhetoric. When Charles speaks of Diana, his tone is formal, measured, and careful, never digging too deeply. William honours his mother with love, but keeps her story separate from his own path as future king. Even Harry, who speaks with raw emotion and challenges tradition, always comes from a deeply personal and painful place as her son. Edward comes from neither. Edward isn't seeking attention or sympathy. He isn't trying to polish his public image. There's a quiet, steady, thoughtful quality to the way he speaks. In just a few calm statements, he confirmed something the public had long suspected: that Diana's pain stemmed not just from personal struggles, but from the inflexible, cold structure of the royal system itself. Edward's quiet honesty now resonates in ways no one expected. His words raise new questions about what else might have been hidden behind the seemingly flawless royal image. What he said doesn't simply reopen old wounds, it creates new ripples of reflection and discussion across the monarchy and the public alike. Prince Edward's remarks reach far beyond old memories. They reopen wounds the royal family never fully healed. Even though his words are calm, measured, and carefully chosen, they force the monarchy to confront one of its most painful private chapters. For years, the royal family had worked tirelessly to reshape public perception. They wanted to move away from the sadness and scandals tied to Diana's life and untimely death. They sought to rebuild their image, presenting a side untainted by old mistakes. But now, with Prince Edward finally breaking decades of silence, all that careful planning risks unravelling within the palace. Reactions are mixed, some unsettled, others deeply hurt. One of the most affected is King Charles, now wearing the crown. He is reportedly shaken to his core. The past refuses to be ignored. His history with Diana continues to cast a heavy, unrelenting shadow, a chapter many view as one of the most painful failures in royal history. Edward's words have stirred memories and revisited decisions Charles made that impacted Diana's life and profoundly influenced how the world views the monarchy. This isn't merely a discussion of history, it's about lingering wounds, unresolved feelings, and emotional scars that still lie just beneath the surface. Prince William, next in line for the throne, now finds himself caught in an increasingly difficult place. He's always shown love and respect for his mother, choosing to honour her in a way that protects her memory, but doesn't reopen old wounds or stir fresh controversy. At the same time, he's worked to guide the monarchy into a new era, one that carefully balances tradition with the changing expectations of the modern public, aiming to leave the past behind without ignoring it. But now, because of Edward's honesty, William may have to confront those painful truths once more. He might need to decide how much of Diana's full story he's willing to accept, internalise, and potentially speak about publicly. That decision will not only affect how the public perceives him, but could also influence whether people believe the royal family is truly capable of learning from the past and growing into a more transparent, empathetic institution. Then there's Prince Harry, who has been the most outspoken regarding Diana's legacy. Much of his decision to step away from royal life stemmed from the same systemic issues that Edward has now admitted existed. Harry has long said that his mother wasn't treated fairly, that her voice was often ignored, dismissed, or silenced within the palace walls, leaving her to navigate immense personal challenges alone. Edward's words may feel like long overdue validation to Harry, proof that someone else in the royal circle finally recognises the reality she faced. At the same time, this could widen the existing divide between Harry and the rest of the family. If Edward, known for always keeping his head down, avoiding the spotlight and quietly supporting the institution, can finally speak up, how much longer can others remain silent without addressing the same painful truths? While these family struggles are deeply personal and emotional, there is something even larger happening here. Edward's revelation isn't only affecting those inside the palace, it's sending ripples far beyond the royal gates, across nations, and into global conversations about monarchy, fairness, and transparency. And that leads to the bigger question: what could this newfound truth ultimately mean for the future of the royal family? Everyone's reaction to Edward's revelation has been intense. His choice to finally speak up has added pressure to a system already showing cracks. In today's world, where truth and openness are increasingly demanded, the royal family struggles to keep pace with societal expectations. So when someone like Edward, long known for calmness, respect, and discretion, chooses to address the painful truths surrounding Diana's life, It forces both insiders and the public to ask, what else might be hidden behind the palace walls? Some believe his openness could be exactly what the monarchy needs. By acknowledging past mistakes and flaws, the royal family might finally demonstrate to the public that they are capable of reflection, learning, and meaningful change. This level of honesty could be a necessary step forward, signaling growth and accountability. Others, however, feel Edward may have crossed a delicate line, potentially making it harder for the royal household to protect the image they've carefully cultivated for generations. No matter which side people fall on, one reality is now impossible to ignore. The royal family can no longer pretend the past didn't happen. Once Edward's words were made public, they spread instantly, reaching audiences worldwide in a way that couldn't be contained. The headlines came fast, every major news outlet covering the story. Talk shows replayed his statements repeatedly, analysing each sentence. Newspapers and online publications filled pages with speculation on how the palace might respond and what the implications could be for the monarchy's future. Simultaneously, social media erupted. In today's digital world, every public statement is dissected, debated, and shared instantly, amplifying the impact of Edward's revelations. Edward's comments became a defining moment. People reacted strongly. Some praised him for finally saying what needed to be said, calling him brave for shining light on truths long buried. His honesty was viewed as both powerful and healing, giving dignity to Diana's pain while holding the royal system accountable. Yet not everyone welcomed his words. Critics questioned whether Edward had stirred up old wounds unnecessarily. Why had he waited so long to speak? Was his timing motivated by personal reasons, or by a genuine desire to share a truth that needed to be acknowledged? Even the press, which had for decades helped shape Diana's public image, came under scrutiny. Some media coverage had painted her as a victim, other coverage blamed her for palace troubles. Edward's account ignored these narratives, offering instead a nuanced, complex story that required reconsideration of prior assumptions. The biggest reactions didn't come from TV or newspapers, they came from everyday people online. Within minutes, social media was flooded with posts, videos, hashtags, and personal reflections. Hidden royal secrets and the demand for transparency spread across platforms. Younger generations, many of whom were not even born when Diana passed, joined the conversation. They compared her experience to that of Meghan Markle, questioning whether the monarchy can endure if it continues repeating similar mistakes. So far, the palace has not issued any official response, yet even in silence, the impact of Edward's statement has been undeniable. Public discourse has shifted. Once again, Diana's name is on everyone's lips, spoken with raw emotion, intense debate, and divided opinion. Edward didn't offer a few harmless words. He reopened a story many assumed had been quietly put to rest. His choice to break decades of silence marks a turning point in how the royal family may approach uncomfortable truths moving forward. For generations, the royal family's survival strategy during crises was simple: say nothing. Silence was assumed to protect their reputation. Edward's decision demonstrates the opposite. Staying quiet does not make problems disappear. It only delays the inevitable reckoning when truth comes knocking. His honesty has brought Diana's struggles, her pain, and the failures of the royal institution back into the public focus. It forces a closer examination of how slowly the royal household adapts, how much personal sacrifice is demanded of those within its walls, and how difficult it is to navigate royal life without losing one's sense of self. Suddenly, new questions emerge. Did Diana have to endure all that suffering? Could the monarchy have shielded her better? Would the institution have been stronger had they acted differently? Edward's revelation may open doors for other royals to speak their own truths. If someone as reserved, loyal, and understated as him is now ready to share his perspective, does that mean other voices will follow soon? Or will too much honesty risk shaking the very foundations upon which the monarchy has long relied? One thing is crystal clear. Diana's story still echoes through the halls of the palace. Her life continues to shape how people view the royals, and even now, her memory stirs deep emotions because of Edward. Her journey is being looked at again, and many are now wondering, was speaking out really worth what it could cost? Not only for him personally, but also for the family's image and unity. People reacted in all kinds of ways to what Edward said. Some admired him, saying it was courageous of him to finally reveal what had been buried for years. To them, his honesty was refreshing, a much-needed light in a story clouded by secrecy and long-standing traditions. They felt it was about time someone from the inside admitted that the past wasn't perfect, but others didn't feel the same way. They thought Edward was trying to shift the narrative, perhaps even soften the truth to protect the family's reputation. They believed his version made Diana's pain seem smaller, less serious than it truly was. But Edward didn't speak to gain praise, nor was he trying to hide anything. He simply wanted to tell the part of the story that hadn't been shared, to give the world a fuller understanding of what really happened behind the palace walls, including moments of struggle, isolation, and personal heartbreak. He knew his words would stir emotions, create disagreements, and spark debates, but staying silent any longer felt wrong. He believed the truth, no matter how difficult, deserved to be shared. Inside the palace, not everyone agreed. For King Charles, Edward's words brought a mixture of conflicting emotions. Charles had spent so many years trying to rebuild his image after the fallout from his marriage to Diana, already facing harsh public judgment for past actions. What Edward said brought both comfort and pain to Charles. On one hand, it showed that even family members carried their own struggles, that no one's story is purely black and white. On the other hand, it reopened old wounds, forcing him to relive moments he had hoped were behind him. And for Prince William, the impact was especially profound. As the next in line to the throne, he has always tried to preserve his mother's legacy while helping the family move forward. Edward's words pulled him back into memories he'd been carefully balancing for years. He found himself questioning, how much truth is too much? How can you honor someone's memory without dragging your family back into painful history? Prince Harry's reaction was far stronger. He felt Edward's words didn't fully reflect Diana's suffering, making her pain seem smaller than it truly was. That only widened the emotional distance he felt from the rest of the family. But Edward didn't retract anything. He wasn't speaking to be liked, nor to clear his name. He simply wanted to share his truth and help people see the full picture. He believed that talking openly, even when it hurt, could be a step toward healing, both for the public and for the royal family. Edward's words didn't just spark debate, they raised deeper questions. If this was only the beginning of telling the truth about Diana's life, what else remained hidden? Now, as the family is being pushed toward greater honesty, can they stay united through it? Like a family finally confronting what everyone has known but no one dared to voice. Edward's gentle, sincere statements touched old wounds that many thought were long buried. For King Charles, it was especially painful. It brought back the haunting days when he was judged by the world and buried in shame. Every time someone called Diana the people's princess, it made Charles's image harder to repair. Edward's honesty stirred all of that again, and while it opened a door for healing, it also reminded everyone just how deep the past still runs. Edward's recent statements added new layers to a story people thought they already knew. His words revealed hidden parts of Diana's life that hadn't been publicly discussed. As soon as he spoke, reactions within the family diverged. Prince William, focused on moving forward while bearing the weight of the future crown, took a balanced view. He felt Edward's comments might create some form of peace, a way to honor their mother's pain while acknowledging the royal family's role. He wasn't trying to forget the past, but he believed they couldn't be trapped by it forever. In William's heart, there had to be a way to tell the truth without tearing the family apart. For Harry, the impact was much deeper. It wasn't just about memories, it was about fairness and standing up for Diana. He felt Edward didn't go far enough. The story felt polished, too careful, while William saw an attempt at healing. Harry saw it as a soft cover over old wounds. Even though opinions about Edward's decision varied, one thing remained certain. Diana's story still holds power. Her life, her choices, and the pain she carried continue to shape how the royal family is perceived and how it moves forward. Edward might not have shared the same view as everyone, but he never ignored their feelings. He knew why some would be upset, but Harry saw it differently. He believed Edward's words were another way the family tried to control the narrative, shaping it to appear better to the public while not fully confronting past mistakes. Over the years, the differences between the brothers' personalities became more evident, both publicly and privately. Now, with Edward's words out in the open, those gaps seem even wider. What he said only intensified Harry's frustrations. He felt the family was using Diana's name to cover up mistakes rather than own them. William didn't see it that way. He believed Edward wanted to show the complexity of Diana's life. Edward's decision to speak didn't just reopen an old story. It reminded the world how much pressure the royal family faces. Times have changed. The world expects truth, honesty, and accountability. The very traits that once made the monarchy seem strong are now reasons for scrutiny. Inside the palace, a sense of exposure grew with every headline and online conversation. Public trust felt fragile. Edward, as always, noticed what others ignored. He wasn't trying to create conflict. He wanted the family to face the past constructively. He knew the truth could stir trouble and that reactions would be strong, yet he spoke anyway. Some praised him, calling his courage long overdue. Others criticized him for reopening pain. The media immediately dissected his statements, comparing them to past royal interviews. Headlines spun different interpretations of each word, yet Edward remained calm. He wasn't seeking attention or gossip. He wanted clarity. He wanted people to understand what truly happened, to look back honestly, and to prevent repeating past mistakes. Edward's words didn't just repeat known facts. They revealed new perspectives on Diana's life, peeling back layers long left untouched. William didn't want to forget the past, but he also understood that living in perpetual sorrow wouldn't help anyone. Harry, however, felt every word personally. It wasn't just memory. It was about fighting for fairness for their mother. So what do you think about Prince Edward's revelation about Princess Diana? Will this change the monarchy in meaningful ways? How do you feel about the balance between truth, healing, and the family's reputation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with others who want to understand the full story of Diana's lasting legacy. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.